Hello there, and welcome. I'm glad we can share this moment of quiet outside the window. The night is already draped over the world, silent and deep. Wherever you are, allow that stillness to drift closer, like the shadow of a cloud passing over a soft landscape. Tonight, we're going to step into a curious thought experiment, one that asks us to imagine movement through the absolute black. What would happen if we could somehow slip the leash of speed, if we could move so quickly that the simple act of seeing became a magnificent, distorted spectacle? We're not rushing. We'll move by the measure of light itself, letting the cosmos reshape around us like liquid glass. We'll explore the way time and space bend when you push the boundaries of travel. A truly dazzling thought, but one we'll hold gently, like a single, fragile beam. If this little journey into the fascinating truths of the universe helps settle your mind or guides you towards a deeper calm, a soft like and a quiet subscribe, help others find their way here too. The universe is patient, and so are we. When you're ready, let's begin. You find yourself resting in a quiet that feels older than anything you have words for. It is not night, because there is no sky. It is not darkness, because darkness is what you see when light is missing. And here, there has never been light at all. No color, no warmth, no direction. Nothing moves, nothing changes. Reality is holding its breath before the first heartbeat. In that unmoving hush, something almost too delicate to name begins to stir. Not a flash, not a beam, just a tremor in what will one day be called space. A tiny shimmer stretches through the stillness. In that moment, motion appears for the first time, and with it, light. Not yet a sharp ray, more like the first note in a silent hall, a vibration that turns emptiness into rhythm. Where there was only sameness, there is now a difference, a before and an after. Before that shimmer, where and when had no meaning. With the first photon's journey, a direction appears. A path is drawn through the blank canvas, and the universe quietly decides it will no longer be only stillness. Light does not wait for a road. As it moves, it creates one, and every tiny step along that invisible road marks out distance and weaves time. From that first trembling ripple onward, every star, every reflection, every spark that will ever touch your eyes is an echo of that decision. That motion is allowed. That change is possible. The light that reaches you tonight belongs to that ancient story. Some of the photons that brush your skin or slip into your eyes began their journey long before there were humans to notice them. Many left their stars when Earth was still young and molten, before oceans cooled and clouds formed. They have crossed unimaginable gulfs without ever slowing down, without ever losing the direction they began with. It's a gentle, strange truth that you only ever see the past. Even the most ordinary sight is already a memory by the time it reaches you. When you look into a mirror, the light you see has just left your face and come back again, but not instantly. There is a tiny delay, too small to feel, but still real. Every glance, every reflection, every moment of seeing is a meeting between what is and what has just been, a soft overlap of now and a heartbeat ago. For all this distance and delay, the universe is no longer truly silent. The stillness that once held everything has been quietly filled. Every corner of space carries a faint, ancient glow, a leftover warmth from its earliest days. Scientists call it the cosmic microwave background, but you can think of it as the oldest light that has not yet faded, a whisper from almost 14 billion years ago, when the universe itself was very young. Motion and time are woven together inside this story. If nothing ever changed, no particle drifting, no wave trembling, then time would have no way to show itself. It is only when something travels from one place to another that a before and an after can exist. When light began to race outward, time began to flow with it. From then on, every heartbeat, every turning planet, every moonrise and sunrise would ride on that same current. You live inside that river of motion, the rhythm in your chest, the slow spin of Earth beneath you, the moon circling overhead, the photons glancing off your hands, and the objects around you. Each is part of the same unfolding that started with that first shimmer. In a quiet way, you are always being carried by light's decision to move. Light is more than just what your eyes register. It is a messenger and a witness, traveling without rest. When it brushes against matter, it learns about it and carries that information onward. Color hints at temperature. The stretching or squeezing of its wavelength reveals motion and distance. Its faintness whispers how long it has traveled. Every star you have ever noticed is not just shining, it is reaching out, telling you where it is and how it lives, in the simple language of motion at remarkable speed. That speed is hard to truly feel. In empty space, light moves at about 300,000 kilometers every second, around 300,000 mountain lengths, in the time it takes your heart to beat once. That relentless pace sets a kind of ultimate limit for the universe. No signal, no object with mass can outrun it. Every warmth, every glimpse, every reflection is bound to that maximum speed. And yet, from light's own point of view, something quietly astonishing happens. For you, every journey takes time. Seconds across a room, minutes along a street, years between stars, unthinkable stretches between galaxies. But for a photon, the entire trip from one side of the universe to the other happens with no time passing at all. Distances that feel enormous to you collapse into a single, timeless path. Light moves, but to itself, there is no waiting, no delay, just presence. This story of light is not only written in distant skies, it's written quietly inside you. The atoms that make up your body were forged in stars that once burned with furious brightness. In their cores, lighter elements were pressed together into heavier ones, releasing tremendous energy as light. When those stars could no longer sustain themselves, they exploded, scattering their enriched material glowing ashes into space. From that stardust, new clouds formed, then new stars and planets, and eventually, the matter that now sits here as you. In a very real sense, you are made from cooled light, condensed into the forms we call atoms and molecules. Every cell carries a quiet memory of those distant fires. You are illuminated matter that has slowed down enough to think and to wonder. Even with your eyes closed, some of that story continues. Tiny electrical signals rush along the pathways of your nerves. They are not as swift as pure light, but they move quickly through the intricate landscape of your brain, carrying feelings, images, and memories. When you recall a moment or imagine a place, that experience rides on small pulses of energy, little echoes of illumination working in miniature. Light is not only something that visits you, it is part of what you are, woven into your very existence. If you let your thoughts drift backward, tracing every ray of light you have ever seen towards its origin, you arrive at the universe's first clear breath. What we call the Big Bang was not an explosion rippling through empty space. There was no outside for it to expand into. Instead, Space itself began to stretch and grow, like a balloon inflating or a single note rising without breaking. Every direction was outward. Every point was its own center. In those earliest moments, everything, space, time, matter, energy, was pressed into a hot, dense state that is difficult to picture. Light existed, but it was trapped in a storm of glowing particles, scattered and absorbed and re-emitted before it could get far. As the universe expanded, that fierce heat thinned. Stretching made it cooler and more spacious. Simple atoms formed mostly hydrogen and helium, the lightest and most abundant ingredients. For the first time, there were stable bits of matter standing apart from the glowing chaos. The fog began to lift, and light found space between the atoms. Eventually, the cosmos reached a point where photons could slip through without being scattered at every step. The universe took its first clear breath. Those newly freed photons have been traveling ever since, their waves stretched by the steady expansion of space. Today, they reach us as that faint, cold glow spread across the sky in every direction. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation, the oldest light you can see. If your eyes could see microwaves instead of visible colors, you would find the entire sky wrapped in a nearly uniform blanket of pale light, almost the same everywhere, with tiny, warm, and cool spots. Those small variations are the first hints of structure, the seeds from which galaxies, stars, planets, and eventually living beings would grow. That ancient light is not far away on some distant edge. It is here, passing through the walls of your room, through the planet beneath you, through your own body. It has been traveling for almost 14 billion years and does not know how to stop. Light does not grow tired, it only spreads. So when you look into a dark sky, you are not just looking into space, you are looking into time. Each point of light is a memory on its way to you. The nearest stars send messages that took years to arrive. Distant galaxies send light that has been crossing the cosmos for billions of years. Some of those galaxies may already have changed beyond recognition, or even faded entirely, their fires gone. Yet their photons still travel, still arrive, long after their source has quieted. Light remembers where it came from. In this sense, the universe is a kind of time machine you can see but not enter. Every photon that touches you tonight began its journey long before you were born, long before Earth grew forests, long before life stirred in ancient seas. You are surrounded by this moving archive, this ceaseless breath of creation brushing gently against you. You might picture each photon as a tiny traveler, carrying color, energy, and direction, little messages from places you may never visit. You do not simply look at light, you meet it. It lands on your skin, it warms your face, it slips into your eyes and turns into quiet understanding. Even something as familiar as sunlight on your cheek is part of this story. The warmth you feel has traveled from the sun's surface to you in about 8 minutes. Those photons left the star that sustains you a short while ago and crossed the space between without stopping, only to dissolve as gentle heat when they meet you. Every breath of warmth, every glimmer on glass, every soft reflection in your room is history made visible. Trace those histories backward in your mind, through the solar system, through the spiral arms of our galaxy, through the dark spaces between galaxies, and you arrive again at that early fog of light and matter, already expanding. This expansion is not like objects flying apart into emptiness. It is the fabric between them, slowly growing. Every point drifts away from every other point, even if nothing is moving through space in the ordinary sense. There is no single center, no edge, only this gentle, steady outward breath. As space stretches, it does something to light as well. The waves that make up a photon's motion are pulled longer, like ripples on an ever-widening pond. When we look at very distant galaxies, their light appears redder than it would in a still universe, because those waves have been gently stretched during the journey. This quiet change in color is one more way light tells us its story, a soft reminder that the cosmos has been expanding for a very long time, carrying everything outward with it. As that light keeps traveling, the stretching continues. Waves that once sat neatly in the colors your eyes can see drift slowly beyond them, slipping into invisible warmth in the infrared, then into the faint glow of microwaves, and eventually into the low, hushed murmur of radio waves. This gradual lengthening of light's stride is what we call redshift. It's one of the reasons we know the universe is still breathing outward, still expanding. Every widening of space tugs gently at each photon, stretching its rhythm and turning distance and time into color and tone. In that slow pull, there is a kind of tenderness. Something as delicate as a beam of light can cross immense emptiness for billions of years and still arrive carrying a story. It does not crumble or fade into nothing. It keeps its memory. Light remembers the heat of the place it came from, the motion of the star it left, the distance it has traveled. It remembers birth and change and cooling. Even now, the oldest photons slip quietly through the cosmos, witnesses from a time when galaxies were young. When you look up at the night sky, your eyes are gathering these memories. You are reading an autobiography that the universe has been writing in brightness. Each star is a chapter. Each shade of color is a sentence about temperature, age, or motion. Each faint flicker is a small, careful word. Without needing to translate, your body knows how to listen. Your gaze becomes a gentle act of reading, one photon at a time. As your thoughts slow, they begin to fall into rhythm with that wider motion, the slow expansion of space, the steady exhale of the cosmos. You may notice a quiet realization settling in. This flow does not end with you. The light that touches Earth tonight does not stop here. It reflects from oceans, from clouds, from snow and glass and leaves, from the curve of your face, from the glimmer of a satellite high above, from the weave of city lights glowing in the dark. Then it continues on. Far in the future, long after your own life has passed, some of those reflected photons will still be traveling. Perhaps, somewhere unimaginable and distant, another kind of mind will catch a few of them and wonder about the tiny blue world that once sent out those small signals in its own quiet way. The universe's first breath is still moving through you, through your eyes, your awareness, your brief moment of looking before the photon moves on again. The cosmos breathes, and without effort, you breathe with it. You are part of that same rhythm, a soft continuation of that first exhale. You rest for a moment inside that thought, wrapped in the idea of the universe's first breath. You can almost feel its warmth fading gently, like the last orange edge of sunlight slipping below a horizon. The expansion goes on in silence. Space stretches. Galaxies drift away from one another, like seeds carried on a wind you cannot feel. Through all of this change, one pace remains unwavering: the speed of light, the universe's unbroken pulse. Imagine something that never tires, never speeds up, never slows down. No matter how cold or thin space becomes, no matter how dense or twisting the path through matter might be, that speed stays the same. In empty space, light travels about 300,000 kilometers every second, so fast it could circle the Earth many times between two of your heartbeats. This number is not just a fact, it is a boundary written into reality. You might find yourself wondering why. Why would there be one sacred pace that nothing can exceed? Why does the universe seem so protective of this single speed? The answer isn't really about light itself, but about everything that surrounds it: space, time, and the strange, deep partnership between the two. Long before Einstein, people imagined that light must behave like sound in air or ripples on water, a wave moving through some invisible substance. They gave that substance a name, the ether, and pictured the universe filled with it. Light, they thought, would ripple through this unseen ocean. But experiment after experiment went looking for this ether and found nothing. Instead, they found something even more puzzling. No matter how they moved, no matter how the source of light moved, the measured speed of light stayed the same. In everyday life, this is not how waves behave. Run toward a sound, and it reaches you a bit sooner. Move away, and it reaches you a bit later. But light refused to follow that simple rule. It did not care if you rushed toward it or drifted away. It held its pace. Einstein dared to turn the puzzle inside out. What if the unchanging speed of light was not the oddity, but the foundation? What if the universe was built around that constancy, bending everything else to protect it? If light speed could never change, then something else had to. That something else was time and space themselves. From this idea, a new picture emerged. If you move very fast, time for you must slow down so that light's speed remains untouched. If you sit deep in a strong gravitational field, time for you must tick differently than for someone farther away. Space and time are not stiff and separate. They are woven together in a flexible fabric that can stretch, twist, and sag. All of that bending happens to keep one simple promise: light shall keep its pace. You can think of it like a vast, quiet orchestra. Every planet, every atom, every heartbeat plays its own melody, faster or slower, louder or softer. But light is the metronome, steady, precise, unchanging. It gives everything else something to keep time with. Without that constant pulse, the notion of before and after would lose structure. Cause and effect would blur. The speed of light sets the outer edge of what is possible. Nothing with mass can quite reach it. To try would require infinite energy, effort without end. So the universe draws a bright, invisible line and whispers, "This far and no further." All the familiar things, stars burning, atoms vibrating, thoughts flowing, exist on the slower side of that line. They move and change and evolve, but they never quite touch the untouchable pace of photons. And yet, for the photons themselves, there is no sense of a long journey. From the perspective of light, time does not pass, distance does not stretch. A beam, leaving a distant galaxy billions of years ago and arriving in your eyes tonight, feels no delay at all. Departure and arrival are the same instant. For light, the whole trip is one unbroken moment. It's a strange paradox. The fastest traveler in the universe, the one that defines all speed, is also the one that never feels motion. It moves through time and yet does not experience time. It crosses space and yet sees the path as already complete. Perhaps this is part of why light feels almost sacred. It lives on the edge between movement and stillness, between cause and outcome, between what was and what will be. Along its path, the past, present, and future that you experience as separate seem to overlap. The same unyielding rule that guides photons through the newborn universe also bends their paths around massive objects like black holes, curving starlight into arcs. The same law lets raindrops split sunlight into rainbows, spreading white light into quiet bands of color. From the faint glow of a distant quasar to the soft light of your screen, everything that shines obeys this one rhythm. Einstein's insight did more than adjust equations. It nudged our understanding of existence itself. If the speed of light helps define time, then time is not a single, universal river flowing the same for everyone. It is more like many small streams, flowing at slightly different rates depending on how and where you move. Two people drifting through life at different speeds or sitting in different gravitational fields will not agree exactly on how much time has passed. The difference is tiny at human speeds, but it is real. Astronauts orbiting Earth age just a little more slowly than those who remain on the ground. Their clocks tick ever so slightly differently. Over a lifetime, the difference is only fractions of a second, but it can be measured. It is the universe gently stretching and adjusting their time so that the speed of light remains untouched. The equations that describe this behavior are complex, but the feeling can be familiar. When you rush, hours can vanish without you noticing. When you are still, a minute can feel wide and full. It's not the same effect, but there is a rhyme between the physics and the poetry of experience. Because light holds steady, the universe remains coherent. Events line up. Signals arrive in an order that makes sense. If light speed wavered, everything would blur. Cause and effect, near and far, now and then, but it does not waver. In that constancy, reality finds its structure. Motion and stillness, expansion and gravity, birth and decay, all fit together into one continuous, readable tapestry. There is another small mystery woven into this constancy. You know that light in a vacuum travels at its sacred pace, but in water or glass, it seems to slow down. A pencil in a glass of water looks bent. A pool seems shallower than it is. We say light travels more slowly through these materials, and yet, in the tiny spaces between atoms, each photon still keeps its perfect speed. What changes is the path. As light moves through a material, it is absorbed and released again and again, handed from one particle to the next like a whispered message passed along a crowded room. Each small pause adds a bit of delay, so the journey as a whole takes longer. To you, it looks as though light slowed down, but in the brief, free spaces where it is not being held, it always moves at the same relentless pace. When you look through a raindrop or see sunlight scatter into colors on a crystal, you're watching this dance. The photon's speed never breaks its cosmic oath, yet its path bends and splits, throwing out arcs and sparkles and hues. Constancy does not mean stiffness. Even a rule that never changes can give rise to an endless variety of patterns. Perfection playing, unchanging at its core, but expressing itself in infinite ways. The light touching you now has taken such paths. It has moved through empty space, through the hot hearts of stars, through atmospheres and oceans, through glass and skin, and the delicate structures of living cells. Through every stage, the same pulse has held steady. It is the universe's truest traveler, silent, loyal, unwavering. If you listen with the part of you that feels more than it analyzes, you might sense that pulse echoed in your own body. Your heartbeat, your gentle breathing, the rising and falling of your thoughts, all of them seem to settle beneath that constant rhythm. You are made of matter that light once illuminated, shaped by processes guided by its pace, wrapped in a reality stitched together by the one speed that never yields. And somewhere underneath all of this, a small question begins to tug at you, like a loose thread at the edge of sleep. If light is the universe's perfect rhythm, what would it be like to chase it? To run beside it for a while and see the cosmos from its side? You linger for a moment in the hush after Einstein's insight, that soft realization that space and time bend themselves just to keep light's pace untouched. The idea settles, but it doesn't leave. It glows quietly. What if you tried to keep up? So you let your imagination slip outward. You're floating in the dark between the stars, surrounded by scattered pinpoints of light, hanging still like distant lanterns. For a moment, nothing moves. Then, gently, you begin to drift forward. At first, you travel slowly, at least by cosmic standards. Then you ease up to 1/10 the speed of light. In a single heartbeat, you cross a distance greater than the Earth's circumference. The stars still look like the same quiet constellations, but the light ahead feels a little different. Colors in front of you shift toward blue. Colors behind you deepen toward red. This soft change has a name, the Doppler effect. On Earth, you hear it when a siren rises in pitch as it approaches and falls as it passes by. Here, it's not sound that's stretched and squeezed, but light. Move toward a beam and its waves bunch up, growing bluer. Move away, and they stretch out, drifting toward redder tones. You lean further into the motion. Half the speed of light now, space begins to lose its familiar shape. The stars in front of you seem to gather into a narrowing tunnel, as if the whole sky is folding itself into a bright path ahead. Starlight stops twinkling and turns sharp, piled into an intense forward glare. The photons striking your eyes from ahead have had their wavelengths crushed by your motion. Gentle, visible light is pushed into more energetic forms, ultraviolet and beyond. You're no longer really seeing stars, you're seeing compressed radiation. Behind you, the opposite happens. The stars you leave stretch into long red memories, their light fading beyond what your eyes can see. At the same time, something quieter begins to shift. Your sense of time loosens, your heartbeat feels slower, your breaths longer. The pauses between them seem to widen, like threads being gently pulled. It isn't just a feeling. This is relativity taking shape. The faster you move, the more time slows down for you, compared with someone who stayed behind. To a distant observer, you would look as though you were drifting in slow motion, every gesture drawn out. But inside your own experience, everything feels normal. Your hands respond when you move them. Your thoughts arrive one after another, smooth and unbroken. Only when you glance back at the universe you left does the difference show itself. Out there, entire spans of time can pass while only moments pass for you. Time is no longer the same everywhere. It has become personal. You let yourself accelerate again, just in your mind. 9/10 the speed of light. Space ahead narrows even more. The stars blur into a single, bright line. The faint afterglow of the early universe, which usually hides as cold microwaves, is now pushed into visible light. It blazes in front of you like a pale, relentless fire. The cosmos you once knew seems to collapse toward your direction of motion, crushed into a forward rush. You're brushing close to the thought experiment that a young Einstein once imagined. What would it be like to ride alongside a beam of light? As you push closer, the rules grow stranger. Your time slows further. Your energy, from the outside view, climbs higher. The effort it would take to go just a little faster grows enormous. The nearer you approach light's speed, the more fiercely the universe resists. Each new fraction of speed demands an outsized cost. If you could somehow reach light speed, a thing no object with mass can do, your time would grind to a stop. Distance would lose its meaning. The whole universe would flatten into a single instant. No before, no after, just one frozen now. But that speed lies beyond reach. To get there would require infinite energy, something no star, no galaxy, no engine could ever provide. The closer you get, the more the goal slips away. In that impossibility, you start to understand why light feels almost holy. It moves at the one speed that asks nothing of it. No fuel, no struggle, no compromise. It is weightless motion, timeless and effortless. Everything else, planets, dust, atoms, you, moves within its shadow, able to approach but never arrive. In your imagination, your body is now cutting through the dark at a nearly impossible pace. You can almost feel the fabric of reality flexing around you. Ahead, space seems to stretch into a long, bright corridor. Time beneath you bends like a slow, deep wave. It stops feeling like you're traveling through the universe and starts feeling like the universe is flowing past you. Beside you, in thought, is that beam of light. For you, there is a journey, a starting point, and in between, a destination. For light, there is no such thing. From its perspective, if it could have one, there is no stretch of time between leaving a star and arriving in an eye. No waiting, no duration. The entire path is one indivisible event. Your world is built from clocks and distances, from appointments and journeys, from departures and arrivals. Light's world is built from a single continuous is. No aging, no passing, no later. Just presence along its path. You might wonder what it would be like to slip into that kind of existence, to live without time, without change, without sequence. It sounds peaceful, like a deep, still lake with no ripples. But in that stillness, something important would vanish. Without time, there is no memory. Without distance, no journey. Without change, no anticipation, no surprise, no unfolding of understanding. All the things that give your life its texture, a promise, a question, a slow discovery, depend on time's flow. And so, even here, almost side by side with your imagined beam of light, you decide to let go of the chase. You ease up, gently. Your speed begins to fall. The tunnel ahead widens. Colors soften back toward their familiar blues and golds and whites. Individual stars step out again from the glare, reclaiming their places in the sky. The universe stretches back into a vast sphere around you, instead of a narrow line in front of you. Time, too, loosens. Your heartbeat feels normal again. Your breaths fall into a rhythm you recognize. In this slowing, a quiet realization unfolds. The beauty of light doesn't lie in you reaching it. The beauty lies in knowing it is there, setting the limit, giving shape to what is possible. By chasing it, even only with your thoughts, you've glimpsed how motion, time, and space are woven together. By slowing down, you come home to your own small place inside that weave. You drift again among the stars, calm and unhurried. The photons you never caught still move freely around you, carrying news from distant corners of the universe. They do not belong to you, but you are allowed to witness them. They pass across your awareness for a moment and then continue on. They are gentle reminders that there will always be something beyond your reach, something to be curious about. Light becomes a teacher of limits, not harsh, but kind. You cannot outrun it, but because it shines, you can see. Because it has a maximum speed, cause and effect can line up. Stories can have beginnings and endings. The boundary it sets gives meaning to movement and to time. You let the feeling of motion quiet completely. The rush of relativity fades like the echo of a distant train already passed. The stars no longer blur. They hang in their patient places. Their colors rest in soft, steady hues. You exhale, returning to a sense of stillness, yet carrying a different understanding of what still means. The chase has ended, but a gentler question rises in its place. If racing through the universe can slow time for you, what happens when you hardly move at all? What is time when you are as still as you can be? You imagine yourself floating in space, as motionless as anything can be in a universe that is always moving. The stars around you burn like small campfires on a dark plain. Time feels ordinary again, slipping by in its usual way. But now you know that this feeling is only part of the truth. Time is not one rigid river flowing the same everywhere. It bends and curves and stretches. Einstein showed that space and time are not separate threads, but one fabric, space-time. Whenever you move, even walking down a street, flying in a plane, sitting on the spinning earth, you trace a path through this fabric. To keep the laws of nature in balance, that fabric adjusts. When you move faster, your time stretches compared with someone who moves more slowly. When you sit deeper in a gravitational well, your time runs a little slower than someone farther away. You never feel these shifts directly. They are too small at human speeds, but they are constant and they're real. Even your simplest day carries them quietly. To feel it more vividly, you picture two twins. One stays on Earth, living a long life under the same sun. The other steps into a spacecraft capable of traveling close to the speed of light. For the traveler, days and nights pass in a familiar rhythm. She eats, sleeps, watches, stars drift by her window. She feels no strangeness. Her heart beats, her thoughts unfold, her time feels normal. But when she returns, something astonishing waits. The twin who stayed on Earth has aged far more than she has. For the traveler, only a few years have gone by. For the one who stayed, it has been decades. Time itself has flowed differently along their two paths. This isn't fantasy. It's a real effect called time dilation. The faster you move, the more your own clock falls out of step with those who remain behind. Even astronauts on the International Space Station experience it. Their clocks tick just a tiny bit slower than clocks on the ground by microseconds each day. It's too small to notice in a life, but it can be measured, and it's enough to prove that time is not fixed. It flexes. You begin to picture time less as a straight line and more as a deep ocean. In some regions, its currents move quickly. In others, more slowly. Gravity stirs it. Motion shapes it. You swim through this ocean without feeling the currents directly, yet they quietly influence everything about your journey. Once again, you imagine yourself as the traveler in the dark. You accelerate, your ship a small, glowing ember among distant stars. From your window, Earth begins to change. Through the lens of your slowed time, the planet seems to move in a slightly different rhythm. Clouds gather and dissolve, seasons turn, cities glow and dim. The lives below rush forward in a way that doesn't quite match your own. From your point of view, you are the one living normally. Your meals, your sleep, your dreams, your heartbeat all feel as they should. To you, it is the others who move differently. That is the quiet puzzle of relativity. Both views are true. There is no single correct clock. There is only your time, their time, and the way those times meet again when you come home. You picture the moment you return, stepping out of the ship into a world that has had more time than you. Faces are older, buildings have changed, maybe languages sound a little different. You are younger than you should be, carried forward on your own slower stream while the world rode another. Motion has given you a way to outrun some aging, but not the emotional weight of finding the world changed. And yet, within this strange gift, there's a kind of grace. Time dilation means you're never truly separate from the deep structure of the cosmos. Every movement you make, each step, each blink, each quiet heartbeat tugs gently at the fabric of space-time, stretching your moments in tiny, personal ways. You don't simply drift inside time. You leave a faint imprint on it, a small thread woven into the greater tapestry. Even the particles inside you follow this truth. Electrons circling their nuclei, quarks bound into protons and neutrons, all keeping their own private clocks. In the quantum world, events unfold with wild variation, some flickering in unimaginable speed, others lingering in spans that would feel endless from your perspective. Inside you and around you, countless tiny times tick together, merging into the single sensation you call now. You float with that awareness for a moment, feeling small but not diminished. You're not outside the story, you're one more moving point in the great weaving, carrying your slow, human rhythm beneath the steady brilliance of light. And then you sense it again. Every layer of existence keeps its own quiet beat. Out in space, pulsars whirl many times each second, their beams sweeping like cosmic lighthouses. Planets roll through their long, patient orbits. Seasons follow their ancient loops. And deep within you, tiny molecular machines open and fold, react and renew. Rhythms far too small to witness, but always there. Each of these motions is a kind of clock, each measuring time in its own way. You're one thread in this choreography, a moving note in an endless symphony. Your rhythm changes depending on where you are, how fast you move, how strongly gravity holds you. That's the other gentle truth that emerged from Einstein's ideas. Motion and gravity are not so different. Both can bend time. Imagine a tall mountain rising from the earth. At its base, you're a little deeper in Earth's gravity well. At its summit, you're just slightly farther from the planet's pull. It sounds like a detail too small to matter, yet time itself notices. A clock at the bottom runs a touch slower than one at the top. The difference is tiny, but it's real, and we've measured it. Two identical atomic clocks, separated by just a few floors of a building, tick out of step. The lower one, sitting in slightly stronger gravity, lags behind the higher one. Even when you stand perfectly still, the universe is quietly stretching and tilting time around you. A moment at sea level is not exactly the same as a moment on a mountaintop. A second near a black hole is not the same as a second far away from it. And yet, nothing breaks. Everything stays consistent. Light keeps its pace. Space keeps its curves. Time bends just enough to let all the rules fit together without conflict. There's a kind of comfort in that. Even as your body ages, memories fade and grow, stars are born and extinguished. There is a hidden harmony beneath it all. You can't step outside of time, but you can learn to feel the pattern, to notice that you are part of the machinery rather than separate from it. Maybe time is not simply something that sweeps past you, carrying you like a leaf on a river. Maybe it's more like light, a constant unfolding, always moving, always becoming. You aren't just being dragged through it. With every decision, every small motion, you help trace your own stream of moments. Outside, the stars are older than when you first started listening to these thoughts. Their light is older still. Yet inside you, your awareness flows as one unbroken line. From within that line, one quiet question lifts its head again. If motion can slow time and gravity can bend it, what kind of time belongs to something that doesn't experience either? What does before and after mean to something that never truly waits? You let yourself imagine drifting into almost perfect stillness. Your body feels light in your mind, almost transparent. Thoughts soften. The stretching and slowing and bending of time that you've been picturing fades into the background. For a moment, everything feels suspended. Then another possibility appears. What if you could stop thinking of yourself as a traveler moving through time and instead borrow the perspective of light itself? What if, just for a moment in imagination, you could see the universe the way a photon sees it, the one thing that never experiences the weight between here and there? You let go of weight and sequence and gently picture yourself as a single particle of light, just leaving the surface of a star. There is no sense of starting to move, no gradual gaining of speed. One instant, you're at the star's surface. In the same instant, the entire path ahead of you already belongs to you. The star behind, the planet waiting far ahead, the great dark in between, they fold together into a single connection. To you, there is no distance to cross, no journey to take. You are not traveling through space. You are the link between two places. From your own perspective, the entire route from emission to arrival exists all at once. Others might say your journey takes 8 minutes if you're headed from the sun to Earth, or billions of years if you're arriving from a distant galaxy. But those minutes and eons belong to their clocks, not to you. For you, all that time collapses into zero. There is no unfolding, no waiting. Time simply doesn't happen. That is what makes light so quietly astonishing. It moves at the absolute speed limit, and yet, from its own point of view, it does not move at all. It is eternal motion, frozen into a single timeless moment. To light, the universe is not a string of events, one after another. It is a single, unified, everything, already complete. You let this imagined photon self glide through the cosmic dark. There is no sensation of speed, only the sense that the universe is there, already wrapped along your path. Thin wisps of gas, invisible clouds of dust, magnetic fields, the far-off pull of stars and planets. You pass through all of it without slowing, always at the same pace. You have no mass to weigh you down, no state of rest to return to. You're a wave and a particle at once, pure energy folded into a moving pattern. Every photon that has ever existed is like this, a small, timeless thread. Some were born in the first light of the universe, still humming through space as faint microwaves. Others leapt from exploding stars, carrying the color of their last moments. Some left the tiny flame of a candle. Others slipped from screens, street lamps, and the warmth rising from human skin. Each one is its own connection between what was and what is. When you are light in this imagining, there is no over there waiting for you. There is only between, and you already feel it. In that betweenness lives a certain peace. No delay, no gap between question and answer. Only the quiet fact that both are already part of you. Every place you will touch, every atom you will meet, is contained in this single, timeless existence. This is what physicists mean when they say time stops at the speed of light. It doesn't thin out or drip slowly. It merges into something whole. All of space-time, past, present, future, collapses for light. into a single state of being. Light doesn't travel through the universe in the way we do. It helps define the universe's structure. From this imagined vantage, you have no age. You are always as young as the moment you were created. Even if others measure your journey as billions of years, nothing about you wears down or grows old along the way. You don't collect scars or memories. You are as you were. And yet, in all this timelessness, there is a kind of fragility. The moment you meet something, an atom in a cloud, a speck of dust, the surface of a mirror, the delicate structures in an eye, you cease to be as you were. You are absorbed as warmth, scattered into new directions, turned into an electrical signal. Being seen is the same as ending. Your existence as a photon finishes in the instant it completes its purpose. That's part of what makes light so beautiful. It's created to connect, to reveal, to bridge gaps between things. It only truly lives in the act of reaching something else. Without it, stars would still burn, but in perfect darkness. Planets would circle, unseen. Matter would exist, but there would be no appearance, no color, no sight. Light is the link between existence and experience. In your photon skin, you glide near great masses. Space-time curves in their presence, and your path follows those curves, like a river following the shape of its banks. When you pass near a heavy star or a black hole, your straight line bends. This bending gravitational lensing lets distant galaxies amplify and distort the light from galaxies behind them. Through effects like this, the universe uses its own gravity to help you, as light, carry its image to distant observers. It is as if the cosmos is holding up its own mirror, arranging its curves and beams so it can watch itself. Every telescope, every detector, every glance upward depends on this partnership. Gravity shapes the stage. Light brings the scene into focus. As a photon, you are both messenger and message. You're not meant to stop where you are, only to complete the connection between places. If light could feel, perhaps it would know something like wonder at this role, or maybe just a kind of quiet completeness. No longing, no suspense, no wondering how things will turn out, because from its perspective, they already have. But there is also a gentle sadness in that picture. To be outside time is to never grow, never learn, never change. The universe evolves around you, but you, as light, do not experience that evolution. You reveal change to others, then vanish. You sense your imagined journey nearing a familiar world. A small blue planet comes into view, wrapped in air and cloud oceans, ice, forests, cities all waiting quietly to receive you. You slip into the atmosphere. Some of you scatter through leaves, turning green into 100 shimmering shades. Some bounce from the sea in bright, trembling flashes. Some stretch into the soft colors of sunrise and sunset. And one last photon, the one you've been following all this time, threads its way through mist and motion and gently lands on the surface of a human eye. In that instant, it ends as light. It becomes a tiny chemical shift, an electrical whisper, moving inward through a mind. Gone as a photon, but transformed into a moment of sight, a glint on water, a hue in the sky, the outline of someone beloved. Its timeless journey folds into someone's brief, vivid experience. Its ending becomes their beginning. With that, you let the photon's view fade, slipping quietly back into yourself. Your body feels steady again, your pulse returning to its familiar rhythm. You're back inside time, where moments follow one another, where memory and anticipation gently shape your days. Yet something in you has softened. Every glimmer around you feels different now, like the final page of a story that began far away, long ago, in a kind of timelessness you can only just begin to sense. And as that awareness settles, you brush once more against eternity, not an endless line of ticking moments, but a presence that doesn't tick at all. You rest in that feeling, knowing that even now the photons touching your eyelids are old travelers, finishing journeys that began before you took your first breath. Their existence as light ends inside your awareness, and still, something of them lingers, a faint afterglow that stays with you long after their story is done. Even when light is gone, its traces remain, patterns in warmth, in memory, in the changes it leaves behind. As you sink deeper into this thought, another question surfaces gently, like a bubble rising through still water. If light can live outside time, could there be places where even light cannot get away? Places where it is trapped with its own reflection, circling forever. You open your inner gaze again, as if returning from a long, quiet journey. The feeling of being light itself still clings to you, soft and distant. You're back inside a body now, back in the world of clocks and distances, but you carry a new awareness. Every time you meet your own reflection, you are greeting light that has gone away and come back. A mirror isn't just a shiny surface, it's a gateway for photons. They leave your skin, your eyes, your breath, cross the space between you and the glass, bounce and return, carrying a tiny, perfect snapshot of where you were a moment ago. You stand in front of a mirror in your mind. The room is still. The air is full of invisible warmth that you can't quite see but can almost feel. You look into the glass, and there you are, or so it seems. In truth, what you're seeing is already over. The light that forms your image left you a fraction of a second ago, ran to the mirror, turned around, and found its way into your eyes. That tiny trip took time. Not much, but not zero. You're always looking at who you just were. Even in something as ordinary as a reflection, you're touching the past. The same is true for everything you see. When you look at someone across the room, the light that shows them to you left their face just a moment earlier. When you look at the moon, you see it as it was a bit more than a second ago. When you lift your eyes to the sun, you're seeing a memory, 8 minutes old. And far beyond, when you gaze into the deep night, some of the stars you admire may already be gone, their light still arriving long after their fires have cooled. Every act of seeing is an act of remembrance. The universe does not reveal itself to you as it is now. It gives you layers of what it has been. Light is a mirror that never stops working. It records in color, in brightness, in angle. It keeps sending fragments of the past outward, filling space with silent testimonies. You look again at that imagined reflection. There's something almost unsettling in the way your eyes seem to meet themselves. That eerie symmetry feels timeless, as though the glass is holding more than just your shape. Mirrors are peculiar like that. They multiply everything, but they also whisper that each image is already gone by the time you see it. You are looking into the past, and the past is looking back. Tilt the mirror in your thoughts. The light shifts, rushing off toward walls, ceiling, other surfaces. Place another mirror in front of the first, and you open a corridor, a chain of reflections fading into distance. Each bounce adds a small delay. Each step down that corridor is a slightly older version of you, separated by slivers of time, a hallway built entirely out of light and memory. Light keeps records even when no one is watching. Every time it meets matter, it carries away information about that encounter. That's how, from a single faint ray arriving from a distant galaxy, scientists can learn what kinds of atoms live there, how hot they are, whether the whole galaxy is drifting toward us or away. The details are hidden in the spectrum and how the light is colored, stretched, shifted. Each photon carries a tiny summary of where it has been. Most of those messengers travel forever without being received. Oceans of photons wander through space unseen, never striking a mirror, never entering an eye. Some escape their home galaxies and drift into the wider dark, their memories unshared. Others eventually find their way into an atmosphere, onto a surface, into a sensor, into a living mind. There, at last, their story is read. You think about your own eyes for a moment. They, too, are mirrors of a kind, gentle ones that not only reflect, but also absorb, turning light into signals and signals into thoughts. Every glimmer that enters becomes part of your inner world, woven into memory, feeling, understanding. You are, in a very real sense, made of reflections, reflecting light outward, receiving it back, trading images with the universe. Every moment you are awake. So next time you picture your face in a window or yourself in the surface of a lake, you can linger there for a breath. What you're seeing isn't a frozen picture. It's a living process, a tiny reunion between you and ancient light. Those photons bouncing off your skin may once have belonged to the heart of a star or the glow of hot gas between galaxies. They may have traveled a very long way before this brief meeting. In touching you, they end their journey as light and begin again as perception, as story, as memory. Light rarely disappears in an instant. When it reflects, scatters, weakens, it leaves traces. Some of it moves into other rooms, onto other faces, into other skies. Some of it ends up buried in warmth, in chemical bonds, in tiny changes too small to notice. It spreads and thins, yet patterns remain. It's possible that somewhere, far from where you are now, faint fragments of light that once brushed your childhood face are still traveling, stretched and softened, but still carrying an imprint of that moment. In this way, the universe is always recording itself, not in neat archives, but in radiance. Every photon that has ever existed holds a small piece of history, a temperature, a color, a direction, a story of where it came from. If somehow every one of those scattered clues could be gathered and read, every sunrise might be reconstructed, every wave, every fleeting expression, reality writes its own diary in light. You let that thought settle around you like a blanket. Every beam in the room you imagine has, in a sense, seen you. Every reflection is a tiny act of remembrance, a brief agreement between matter and energy that something happened here. Even when the photons fade, the impressions they leave inside you remain. The pattern of what you've seen, what you've noticed, what you've loved, continues in your mind. You exhale, feeling the air move softly in and out, as though the space around you is breathing with you. In that calm, even the smallest sparkle, a glint on a glass, a faint reflection in a dark screen starts to feel almost sacred, a whisper from the universe saying, softly, I have noticed you, I remember. You feel a quiet curiosity still awake inside, the same gentle pull that began when you first imagined chasing light itself. The journey has grown softer, slower, but it has also gone deeper. You've followed light outward and inward, across space and into your own awareness. And somewhere behind all of this, another question has been waiting patiently, like a shadow at the edge of a lamp's glow. If mirrors can hold the memory of light, what about places where the curves of space-time become so steep that even light cannot climb out. If light can carry the past across the universe, what happens to memory when gravity becomes so strong that every path leads inward? You find yourself lying still again in your imagination, letting that question drift through you. The idea of a mirror that cannot return an image, a place where light enters but never escapes, flickers at the edge of thought. The reflections you've been following begin to fade from your mind, like the last glimmer on a window at night. Yet the light itself goes on, moving beyond you into regions where space begins to curve more sharply, where gravity's hand grows heavier. You picture a single ray leaving the heart of a distant star. For a while, it travels in what looks like a straight line, trusting that space is smooth. But somewhere ahead lies great mass, a planet, a dense star, perhaps something darker. That mass does not reach out and tug on the photon directly. Instead, it reshapes the arena itself, bending the fabric through which the photon moves. And the light, doing only what it always does, follows the curve without knowing anything has changed. In your mind, space stops being emptiness and becomes more like a soft, invisible sheet stretched in all directions. Place something heavy on it, and the sheet dips. Let a beam of light skim past that dip, and it arcs along the slope, then straightens out again. From a distance, it looks as though the star has pulled the light toward itself. In truth, the light has simply honored the natural shape of reality. Long ago, during a solar eclipse, people on Earth watched starlight pass by the edge of the sun and saw that the stars appeared slightly out of place, nudged by the sun's gravity. It was a quiet confirmation that even this weightless traveler must follow the universe's curves. Light, constant and swift, is not exempt from the rules. It traces them. You lie there with that image, space as a fabric, light as a thread, gravity as a gentle hand reshaping the loom. And somewhere deeper in that fabric, hidden from ordinary sight, waits the answer to your earlier question about places where the curves grow so deep that not even light can return. You let your thoughts slip back to that bending beam of light and quietly decide to follow it. In your mind, you drift alongside it through the dark, past scattered stars and soft spirals of galaxies, through regions where gravity deepens like unseen wells in the fabric of space. Each time the light passes near, something massive, a star, a cluster of galaxies, its path curves a little, the way a river bends around stones. Most of the time, the deflection is so gentle you'd never notice. But sometimes, when the alignment is just right, whole galaxies become lenses. Their mass bends and focuses light from even more distant objects hidden behind them. You picture it, a galaxy far away, heavy with stars and dark matter, standing between you and something even farther. Light from that hidden object tries to travel straight, but the space around the foreground galaxy is curved, so the light arcs instead. Some of it is bent toward you, some around, some split into multiple paths. By the time it reaches your eyes or a telescope's mirror, a single distant galaxy can appear as several stretched arcs, shimmering crescents, even complete rings. We call this gravitational lensing, but the name feels too small for how quietly beautiful it is. The universe using its own weight as a lens, bending its own light to show you things you wouldn't otherwise see. A galaxy billions of light years away magnifying another galaxy, even older, letting you glimpse light that left its source when the cosmos was still very young. Those arcs and rings you've seen in telescope images, the ones that look like delicate smudges or halos, aren't mistakes or distortions in the glass. They're signatures of curved reality. When all the distances and masses line up just so, you can get a nearly perfect circle of light. an Einstein ring, a luminous loop drawn by geometry itself. They are the fingerprints of space-time, gentle evidence of how deeply everything is connected by gravity's quiet pull. It's humbling to realize that you never see the universe completely as it is. Every image is filtered through the shape of space. Light must thread its way through valleys and hills you can't see, guided by the gravity of everything it passes. Stars are slightly shifted from where they appear. Galaxies are subtly stretched, magnified, or dimmed. Even the familiar dome of night above your home is, in a small way, a painting on a curved canvas. And yet, this isn't a deceit. It's just how reality works. What you call seeing is always a partnership between light and gravity. Light reveals, gravity shapes what is revealed. You are seeing the truth, but you are seeing it gently bent. There's a strange comfort in that. If even light can bend and still be faithful to what it carries, perhaps truth itself doesn't have to be perfectly straight to be real. The universe isn't built from rigid lines. It's built from arcs and spirals and curves. The beauty lies not in absolute symmetry, but in how gracefully everything yields to the forces that move it. You let that thought deepen. Every beam of sunlight, every glint on water, every reflection in your eye, all of it has been guided by invisible curves. Gravity is not only the pull that keeps your feet on Earth. It's also the scaffolding of sight, the hidden architecture that decides where light can go. The Earth itself sits inside this curved sea, gently dimpling space-time so that light falling toward you is already slightly bent by the time it reaches your skin. Even the blue of the sky is part of this story. Sunlight enters the atmosphere, scatters off molecules, and spreads into color. Behind that scattering is the simple fact that light moves along paths carved out by gravity, through an air ocean draped over a rounded world. You are surrounded by curved light all the time, woven quietly into your days. Sometimes, though, the bending becomes extreme. Near black holes, the warping of space grows so deep that light can do something astonishing. It can orbit. You imagine this now, photons looping around a dark center, circling like fireflies trapped on a ring. They skim a boundary where escape and surrender are perfectly balanced. This fragile band is called the photon sphere, a region where light neither falls inward immediately nor flies away, but loops again and again around the darkness. There, the idea of direction begins to fray. If you could stand at that edge, though you cannot, you'd find that around is always also down, and forward is tangled with inward. Time stretches in strange ways. The familiar markers of distance and duration soften and blur. It sounds terrifying at first, like standing at the lip of a bottomless well. But in the hush of your imagining, it also feels deeply calm. The same universe that gives you sunsets and rainbows also gives you this, the ultimate bending of light, where vision itself starts to vanish into gravity's embrace. Even on that edge, light remains honest. Some photons, skimming just the right path, manage to break free and race outward again, carrying with them the last possible glimpses of what lies near the black hole. Others fall inward, their paths turned so sharply that every line they might follow leads deeper into the dark. Those that escape are like messengers who almost didn't make it, bringing home news from the brink. When you see an image of a black hole, the glowing ring around a dark center, you're not looking at the hole itself. You're seeing the story those near-missed photons tell. Light that has been swept into tight orbits, bent around and around, then finally allowed to flee. The dark core in the middle is not an object in the usual sense, but a shadow cast by the region where not even light can return. The ring is light's farewell, portrait of gravity at its most intense. To help your mind hold it, you borrow a simple picture. Imagine space-time as a river. Far from the black hole, the water flows gently, and light can swim upstream if it chooses. Closer in, the current speeds up. At a certain distance, the flow matches light's swimming ability. Closer still, the river races so quickly that no matter how hard light paddles, it's carried inward. The point where the current becomes inescapable is the event horizon, the boundary between can come back and never returns. Beyond it, there is no outside in the way you usually mean it. Space itself is flowing inward faster than light can climb. And yet, a black hole's surroundings are anything but empty. Matter falling toward it doesn't always fall straight in. It swirls, forming a hot, bright disk that whirls around the darkness. At these speeds and densities, atoms crash and grind, heating until they emit light across the spectrum, from visible glow to fierce X-rays. Sometimes, magnetic fields channel some of that energy into jets, a pair of narrow beams shooting out from the poles at nearly the speed of light, piercing the surrounding space like cosmic searchlights. So even here, where gravity becomes nearly absolute, beauty emerges. You see it in your mind, a dark circle wrapped in a halo of fire, light bending tightly around it, some of it racing out to distant observers. Because of the extreme curvature, when you look at such a scene, you're actually seeing light from all around the black hole at once, front, back, sides bent into one glowing ring. It's as if reality itself folds an entire sphere of information into a flat, luminous outline. Every photograph of such a ring, every warped arc of starlight near a massive object, is another example of the same thing. Light, obeying geometry. Gravity sculpts. Light traces the sculpture. Together they draw the visible universe. You let that image settle inside you. Curved light flowing softly across a dark, curved fabric. Black holes not as monsters, but as places where geometry runs to its deepest expression. Gravity not as an enemy of light, but as its partner in creation, one shaping the stage, the other revealing what the stage looks like. Somewhere beyond that ring, beyond the horizon, lies the singularity, the place where your equations stop working and your language runs out. Infinite density, infinite curvature, words that point but cannot truly describe. The universe began, perhaps, from something like this, a singularity blossoming into everything. Now, scattered through space, black holes feel like tiny echoes of that beginning, pockets where expansion is replaced by collapse. Creation and falling inward, light fleeing and light being trapped, vision and darkness, they are all part of the same story. The cosmos breathes out in stars and galaxies, and breathes in again in black holes, and light is there for every phase, racing outward when it can, circling when it must, disappearing when it's time to end a journey. You rest with that thought, feeling a quiet awe rise like a slow tide in your chest. The same physics that lets you see the color of a leaf also paints halos around black holes. The same constant speed of light that defines your sense of time allows the universe to use its own weight as a lens, as a mirror, as a brush. You breathe in, breathe out. Somewhere out there, photons are curving past massive clusters, looping around dark centers, stretching as space expands. Somewhere, others are slipping gently through your window, bouncing off the objects in your room, finding their way into your eyes. Their paths are very different, but the rules guiding them are the same. And in that shared rule, You find a kind of companionship, a sense that you, too, are part of this delicate geometry, not apart from it, but resting within it, held by the same curves that guide the light. As you let your thoughts drift nearer to that dark center, you can almost feel time itself begin to thin and stretch, moments lengthen like taffy. The bright ring of the accretion disk seems to smear, as though your sense of now is losing its edges. Near the event horizon, the border of no return, something subtle happens to your intuition about time and space. Space becomes the direction you fall. Time becomes the direction you cannot change. Every step forward is inward. Every possible future leads deeper into gravity's well. It's here, in this strange borderland, that another question rises quietly. What happens to information in a place like this? Everything in the universe carries information, a way of saying there are details about it that could, in principle, be known. The pattern of atoms in a stone, the exact state of a beam of light, the arrangement of particles in your body right now. Our best understanding of physics insists that this information can't simply vanish, even if matter is crushed, heated, or turned into light. But a black hole seems to challenge that. If things fall in and never come out, where do their stories go? Some thinkers have suggested a delicate answer. Maybe the information never truly disappears. Perhaps it's stored on the event horizon itself, encoded in unimaginably fine detail on that surface. A hologram, not of images, but of everything that ever crossed the boundary. From far away, the black hole looks perfectly dark. Up close, in this idea, its horizon is the ultimate archive, a kind of cosmic memory etched into the skin of gravity. You picture that for a moment, not a mirror that sends light back, but one that keeps it, not a surface that reflects appearance, but one that stores history. Each photon that fails to escape doesn't simply die. It becomes part of a subtle pattern. The past doesn't vanish, it changes form. From bright motion to silent structure, from visible to hidden, from path to imprint. Hovering at this imagined edge, you feel how strange this place is. Lean even a little closer, and time, from your perspective, could stretch toward infinity. A second outside might pass, while an eternity seems to unfold near the horizon. Pull away, and the rest of the universe appears to race ahead, centuries sliding past like falling leaves. This boundary is both rigid and slippery, an absolute line and yet a different one for every observer. The silence here feels older than stars, as if even space itself is holding its breath, and somewhere in that hush, you sense a deep balance at work. Stars are born and burn bright, then cool and collapse. Systems form and scatter. Expansion and fall, brightness and darkness are not opposites so much as partners. In collapse, the universe remembers how to gather itself. In endings, it rehearses the conditions for new beginnings. Black holes, with all their severity, are part of that symmetry. They don't sit outside the story. They are one of its chapters. You feel yourself as a small point of awareness, standing at an imaginary edge, looking into a silence that even light cannot cross. There is something surprisingly gentle in realizing that light's journey does not truly end here. For some photons, the path bends past the hole, and they escape, carrying news of the fierce gravity they grazed. Others fall inward, perhaps becoming part of the horizon's hidden record. Some dissolve into the deep inner workings of space-time itself, contributing to an unseen heartbeat of the cosmos. You let yourself drift back now, away from the black hole's grip. The dark intensity softens. The stars creep back into your field of view, shy at first, then clearer. Distant galaxies regain their delicate shapes, pale smudges against a velvet background. You feel lighter, as though you've exhaled something you didn't know you were holding. As you move outward, another thought glows briefly. If even light can be captured and transformed, what about time? Could time leave echoes of its own, traces that linger even after events have passed? Shadows, not just in light, but in the way space-time itself vibrates. The black hole recedes into the distance. You are weightless once again, floating in a vast quiet that almost pretends to be silence. But you know better now. The universe rarely stops. It only changes the way it speaks. At first you don't hear anything. You feel it, a faint trembling beneath awareness. Not a sound in air, but a rhythm in the fabric of reality. It's light again, but not only light. It's energy itself, expressed as waves and frequencies, ripples that cross the whole of space. You close your inner eyes and imagine what it would be like to listen to light, not with ears, but with your mind. Every color becomes a note, every wavelength a pitch. The deep red end of the spectrum feels like a low hum, slow and steady. Blue dances higher, like bright chimes. Gamma rays buzz in sharp, quick pulses. Radio waves roll like distant thunder, long and slow. The entire electromagnetic spectrum becomes an unseen orchestra, with infinite octaves stacked beyond what your eyes can detect. You live bathed in this music all the time. Your senses just aren't tuned to most of it. The truth tucked inside physics is that the universe hums continuously. Every atom radiates a little. Every charged particle that moves sends out a ripple. Every star vibrates, its surface rising and falling. The leftover glow from the Big Bang itself still hisses quietly through space as a faint background of microwave light. Distant quasars roar across billions of light years. Existence is a web of waves that never fully go silent. Sound and light, you realize, are cousins. Both are waves. Both carry energy. Both carry information, a pattern of crests and troughs through something. For sound, that something is air, or water, or solid matter. For light, it is the electromagnetic field itself, needing no material to travel through. Sound waits for atoms to bump into each other. Light needs no such chain. It races through vacuum, carrying messages from events that happened before Earth even existed. Sometimes, the motions that generate light can be translated into sound. The surface of the sun ripples with waves shaped by magnetism and convection. When those oscillations are transformed into audio, you hear a slow, powerful thrumming, like a heartbeat bigger than planets. Planets themselves can hum, their magnetic fields and atmospheres producing frequencies that instruments can catch and convert. Even the collisions and mergers of black holes send out ripples in space-time gravitational waves that can be turned into brief, eerie chirps. The universe looks quiet to your limited senses, but if you listen in the right way, it is full of song. You imagine drifting among these waves, not as sharp beams, but as soft, layered ripples. Light is no longer a straight arrow in your mind, but a graceful undulation. Electric and magnetic fields, rising and falling in tandem, perpendicular to each other, braided together in motion. It is form and rhythm at once. If your eyes could see beyond their narrow band, the world around you would bloom with additional colors of existence. You would see the heat pouring off your own hands as a gentle red glow in infrared. You'd watch radio waves pass through walls like long, ghostly tides. X-rays would reveal structures beneath surfaces. Ultraviolet halos would shimmer around stars, flowers, and even your own skin in sunlight. You'd see the whisper of Wi-Fi, the faint fog of the cosmic microwave background, the ghost light of distant galaxies still sending out their waves. All of this is one continuous spectrum, one family of waves differing only in wavelength and frequency. To feel it more simply, you picture a single, smooth wave rising and falling. If you stretch its wavelength longer, its color slips toward red, its energy softens. Compress it shorter, and it moves toward blue. Then beyond, into radiation your eyes cannot endure. Frequency and color are just two ways of describing the same underlying rhythm. When waves overlap, they interfere. They can add together, making bright bands or strong notes, or cancel each other, leaving quiet pockets of darkness. In that sense, the universe is a vast interference pattern, formed by waves from everywhere, meeting everywhere else. Patterns of brightness and shadow, intensity and calm, emerge from their crossings. Where waves reinforce, stars ignite, signals strengthen, matter organizes. Where they cancel, silence appears. Creation, in one way of seeing it, is a dance between resonance and stillness. You breathe in, breathe out, and remember that you are not outside this pattern. Your own heart beats in a rhythm that sends tiny waves into the world. The electrical activity in your brain produces faint electromagnetic fields. Small, but real, atoms in your body vibrate at frequencies inherited from the conditions that formed them, long before humans arrived. You are not just surrounded by the cosmic orchestra, you are one of its instruments, playing without trying. Your cells, your nerves, your thoughts add their own small motifs to the larger composition. The idea brings a gentle peace. It means that even in solitude, you're not isolated. Even in darkness, you're immersed in invisible music. Every warm ray on your skin began as a wave. Every glimmer that ever caught your eye was a brief intersection of your path with a particular frequency. If you could, in imagination, slow all this down and shift it into sound, the galaxy's radio waves might become a low, constant bass. Infrared glows could murmur like violas. Visible light might shimmer in layered chords. Gamma rays could flash like tiny, bright bells that vanish as quickly as they arrive. The result wouldn't be chaos. It would be a strange, ordered symphony, the music of structure, of motion, of balance. People once called this idea the music of the spheres, thinking of planets and stars as instruments playing in the dark. They didn't know about electromagnetic waves or quantum fields, but the intuition was not so far off. Every orbit, every vibration, every beam adds its own part to the overall harmony. You lie there now in your mind, your breath slow, your body relaxed, your awareness drifting. Somewhere deep inside, your pulse keeps time, your thoughts move in waves. The faint electromagnetic murmurs of your nervous system mingle with the larger hum of the cosmos. You are not just watching the universe perform, you are part of the performance. Every moment you exist, you are both an audience to the song of light and a note within it. Every breath you take, every slow heartbeat, every drifting thought feels like one more soft note in that quiet symphony. As you lie there, still and calm, the waves you've been imagining seem to settle around you. The black hole's shadow feels distant now, like a story already told. The song of the universe continues, but softer, like music heard from another room. Out of that fading hum, a new question rises, light as dust and just as easy to stir. If the universe sings through vibration, could color be another kind of voice, not one that speaks to your ears, but to something deeper inside? You float again in the dark, and this time, The ripples you felt as sound slowly brighten into light. The silence around you begins to bloom with color. Deep reds unfurl at the edges. Soft blues appear, then pale gold, then violet so gentle it feels more like a mood than a shade. It's as if the universe has begun to speak again, but now in hues. Color is not just decoration. It's information, folded into light. Every shade that reaches you carries clues. How hot something is, how far away, how fast it's moving, how long its light has been traveling. Each color is a timestamp written in wavelength. You've seen this in simple ways already. Think of the sun at noon, white gold and direct, and then at sunset when it sinks toward the horizon. By then, its light has to pass through more of the atmosphere. The shorter waves, blues and violets, scatter off tiny particles in the air, spilling across the sky. What finally reaches your eyes from the sun itself is what remains. Longer waves of red and orange. The sun hasn't changed. The path of its light has. On a much larger scale, space does something similar. As light travels across the expanding universe, the stretching of space stretches the light itself. Its waves are pulled longer. What began as a fierce blue-white beam might, after billions of years, arrive as a gentle red glow. This gradual lengthening is called redshift. It's one of the cosmos's most poetic clocks. If you could look in all directions with perfect eyes, every distant galaxy would be tinted by this effect. The farther away it lies, the redder its light becomes by the time it reaches you. You're not just seeing distance, you're seeing expansion. The color of the light carries the imprint of space's own breathing. In the early 20th century, astronomers noticed this pattern. Almost all distant galaxies seemed to be sliding away. Their light shifted toward red. The farther the galaxy, the stronger the shift. The conclusion was simple, but breathtaking. The universe isn't standing still. It is stretching. Space itself is expanding, carrying galaxies apart like dots on an inflating balloon. Color became proof of motion. Light shifted toward blue when something moved closer, toward red when it moved away. The same principle that makes the pitch of a passing siren rise and fall also shapes the hues of galaxies. The Doppler effect, written in light instead of sound. You drift now among these imagined colors, letting them wash over you. On one side, you feel the sharp brightness of blue and blue-white, the colors of hot young stars that burn quickly and intensely. On the other side, there's the deeper, slower glow of red, the color of cooler, older objects, of stars nearing the end of their burning life, of distant galaxies retreating into the dark. Between these poles lies a whole spectrum of becoming: orange, yellow, and white, the shades of stars in their quieter middle years. Our sun sits here, gently golden, not newborn and not yet old, balanced between fury and fatigue. To look at a star's color is to read a line from its autobiography. Blue-white, I am young and fierce. Golden, I am steady and mature. Red, I am swollen, cooling, preparing to fade. Every photon from those stars tells you not just that it exists, but how much energy it carries, how fast it vibrates, how far it has come. Light is both messenger and message, memory wrapped in frequency. Your thoughts turn to the oldest light we know, that faint afterglow spread across the whole sky, the cosmic microwave background. When it was first released, the universe was still young, dense, and hot. That light would have been blinding, a brilliant white haze filling every direction. But expansion, over almost 14 billion years, has stretched its waves into the microwave part of the spectrum. It is no longer visible to your eyes. It's a cold, uniform whisper now, a soft glow that instruments can detect, but you cannot see. Redshift has turned that early brilliance into a background murmur, brightness into memory. What was once light you could have bathed in has become warmth, too faint to feel. Color has become time. You start to sense the poetry hiding under the physics. The further back in time you look, the redder the universe becomes. The past is not black and white, it is slowly reddened, its light stretched as it recedes. Red becomes the color of distance and age, of things moving gently away, of long journeys. You glance down at your own hands in this inner scene. You don't see it with normal sight, but you know they're glowing too, in their own way. Your skin radiates infrared light, a soft warmth of long waves leaking into the air. If your eyes could see in infrared, the night would never be truly dark. Every living thing would shine in muted reds and golds, a quiet map of heat and life. In that imagined view, you and the stars share a kinship. They radiate because fusion burns in their cores. You radiate because your body is alive and warm. Both are instances of energy trying to spread out, to reach balance. Light is the language of that reaching. You realize that in a way, you're redshifting too, not in wavelength, but in time. Each day carries you a little further from your own beginning. New moments are blue and close, sharp and immediate. Old moments drift outward, stretching and softening. They become memories less intense, farther away, but never fully gone. Like distant starlight, they continue to exist as traces in the people you've met, the rooms you've lived in, the stories you've told. Maybe color, in the deepest sense, is memory made visible. Blue for what is near and high in energy, red for what has traveled and mellowed. Color as the universe's way of turning history into something you can see. You let your awareness expand to take in the sky again. You sense the blue-white of young, crowded star clusters, the warm gold of suns like ours, the dim red halos of ancient galaxies at the edge of reach. If you could gather all these hues into a single canvas, you'd have a portrait of the cosmos across time, a painting made not with paint, but with the ages of light. Even with your eyes closed, faint shapes of color seem to drift behind your eyelids. After images, tiny echoes of light that has touched you. Darkness in front of you is never truly empty. It is full of faded impressions, the last whispers of photons that have already done their work and moved on, or been absorbed and turned into thought. Those photons came from countless places, some from nearby lamps and screens, some from the sun, some from stars that died long before humans walked the earth. Their journeys end quietly inside you, and their stories become part of your own inner landscape. Color turns into feeling, light turns into meaning. You begin to understand that color is not just a physical property, it's a bridge. It translates energy into experience. It allows the universe to move from simply being to being felt. Every shade is a reminder that everything is in motion, that nothing stays exactly the same. Blue galaxies won't stay blue forever. Red stars were once brighter. Even the gentle white of the sun will shift as it ages. You open your eyes in this imagined universe, and it feels as though everything around you is painted with intention. The red-tinted galaxies seem wise, heavy with age. The blue stars feel eager and brief. The white light of a middle-aged sun feels calm and kind, like a voice saying, "I will change, and that is how I continue." You hold that thought close, Gradually, the colors around you dim, bleeding back into the deep background they came from. The cosmos exhales. You do too. In that dimming, you sense not emptiness, but something waiting. Because if light carries color, and color carries time, then somewhere there must be a boundary where the last of that visible color has been stretched beyond what any eye can see. You picture yourself floating at the edge of that limit, where the blues and reds fade into tones your senses can no longer distinguish. Light here is tired, its waves so long they feel more like a slow warmth than a hue. This is the realm of the oldest light. You can still, in principle, receive the faint microwave glow that wraps the universe like a thin, invisible blanket. Beyond this, there is likely more space, perhaps endless, but its light has been stretched too far or hasn't yet had time to arrive. Here, at the edge of the visible, the universe feels very old and very quiet. Not truly silent, just cooled. What was once a bright, hot fog is now a near-frozen whisper. You let your mind drift backward along that light's journey. The farther back you go, the younger the universe becomes. Galaxies shrink into cloud-like clumps. Clumps melt into a hot, glowing soup of particles. There is a time when there are no stars at all, only a dense, radiant fog. Photons can't travel freely. They bounce and scatter, trapped in a brilliant storm. Slowly, as expansion continues, the fog thins. The universe cools enough for simple atoms to form mostly hydrogen and helium. When that happens, the fog clears. Light, for the first time, can fly without being stopped at every step. The cosmos takes its first clear breath, and that breath is light. That moment came when the universe was only a few 100,000 years old, a baby, compared to its nearly 14 billion year present. And yet, the light released then is still here, vastly stretched, surrounding you now in microwaves. Instruments can map it, revealing a sky not of stars, but of tiny temperature ripples, warmer spots, cooler spots, slight variations in density. Those small irregularities are the seeds of everything that followed. Where there was a little more matter, gravity gathered it into clouds, then into stars, then into galaxies and clusters. Where there was a little less, vast voids opened. The cosmic web you inhabit, with all its filaments of galaxies and empty spaces, traces back to those faint mottled patterns in the oldest light. You float there in your thoughts, held between color and its fading. The universe has told you its story in brightness, in red and blue and gold, and now, in this ancient whisper of microwave glow, you are listening to the after-echo of the first light, and at the same time, you are part of its continuation, one more place where light ends its journey by becoming awareness. Those faint ripples you were just tracing, the tiny unevenness in that ancient light, are not just distant curiosities. In a quiet, literal way, you are made of them. Where the young universe was slightly denser, gravity could get a better hold, gathering matter into clumps, then clouds, then stars, then galaxies, and eventually into worlds and bodies and minds capable of wondering about it all. The first breath of the cosmos, that glowing fog that later stretched into microwaves, didn't just light up space, it set the stage for your awareness. The photons that touch your mind now are part of a story that began before there were stars, before there was dust, before atoms like the ones in your bones had even formed. When you look at that ancient light, you're not just seeing something far away, you're looking directly into time. Astronomers call the region you can see the observable universe, not all that exists, only the part whose light has had time to reach you. Beyond that sphere, space continues, perhaps without end, but its messages are still on their way. You stand at a strange kind of horizon, not a wall, but a limit set by time itself. Past a certain distance, everything recedes into pure mystery. There's something tender about that edge. Behind you lie galaxies and clusters, planets and nebulae, all glowing with histories you can partly read. Ahead stretches a darkness you cannot pierce, a future and a beyond that light has not yet had time to describe. Between them is this thin band of knowing, lit by the photons that survived all the scattering, all the collisions, all the dust. You imagine drifting through that ancient glow. Each photon you meet has been traveling almost since the universe's childhood, moving unbroken through expansion and structure and change, only to end its journey as a brief touch on a detector, or a line on a map, or a thought in your mind. They were born in a world with no stars, no planets, no names. Yet somehow, they arrive here, in a universe that now includes you. If you could turn those microwaves into sound, they would hum as a deep, steady note, a background tone woven through everything, the cooled echo of a once blazing heat. You can't hear it with your ears, but you can feel the idea of it, a quiet, universal presence that fills the supposed emptiness. And there, at that edge, time itself starts to feel different. The light you receive from so far away is not happening now. It happened nearly 14 billion years ago. When you look far enough out, distance and time blur into one. You're not seeing where something is. You're seeing where it was, long before Earth ever existed. Space becomes a way to look backward. You might wonder if there's anything before even this ancient light, any trace of the very first instant. Physicists suspect there is not in photons, but in subtler ripples, gravitational waves, wrinkles in space-time itself, still faintly echoing from the universe's birth. They're incredibly hard to hear, buried deep beneath everything that came after, but they whisper something profound. Even before light could travel, there was motion. Before brilliance, there was rhythm. That thought settles gently. Before shining, there was the intention to shine. Before visibility, there was a pulse. You're standing, in imagination, at the furthest reach of sight, but not at the edge of existence, beyond the observable horizon. The cosmos continues unobserved, unfolding in its own quiet way. Light just hasn't had enough time to reach you yet. The story isn't finished. The universe is still speaking, still sending out new beams, still growing its web of events. You drift, and the ancient glow slowly recedes behind you. The microwave hum softens. The colors of time you've been following dissolve into something darker, but inside you, something has shifted. You've brushed against the universe's baby picture. You've stood at the boundary where light turns into history. You turn back, in your thoughts, toward the familiar spirals of galaxies, toward the soft shine of stars and the tiny blue worlds around them. They feel more fragile now, more precious, as though each one is a note in an old song you've only just learned to hear. You begin your slow journey home, toward the light that still burns in suns, in reflections on water, in the glow of your own skin. But before you get far, another gentle question lingers, like an afterimage on the inside of your eyes. If light carries the memory of what has been, what carries the memory of what has not yet appeared? What about the dark, the spaces between? The edge of the visible universe fades into a deeper shade. The oldest light stretches beyond color, beyond warmth, into something you cannot quite sense. Around you, The dark thickens not as emptiness, but as a soft, textured presence, like velvet or deep water. You float inside it, letting your eyes adjust to nothing. At first there is, of course, nothing to see, but as you rest in it, you start to feel that darkness isn't quite as simple as absence. Each time light moves on, darkness seems to return. Each time a lamp goes out, shadows appear to slip back into place. Night seems to pour across the land when the sun sinks, as if darkness were flowing. Physics has its own quiet explanation. Darkness doesn't really move. It has no particles, no energy, no wavelength. It's the word you use for where light is not, a pause between illuminations, a gap, and yet your senses insist that it behaves like something alive, rushing in when light fades, drawing back when light arrives. Maybe that's because darkness is not only absence, it's also memory, the outline of where light used to be. You feel that thought deepen. Darkness is not the enemy of light, it is its partner. Together they draw every shape you've ever seen. Without dark, there would be no contrast, no edges. A star needs a black sky to be visible at all. A beam needs a shadow to reveal where it falls. You picture yourself drifting into a great cosmic void, a region where galaxies are rare and far apart. These spaces exist immense volumes, where the nearest cluster of stars is unimaginably distant. Yet even here, if you could see perfectly, you'd find photons wandering through, cosmic rays streaking by, relic microwaves passing unnoticed. Space is never truly empty. What you call darkness is usually just light that is too faint for your eyes. Within that faintness lies its own kind of beauty. Thin beams crossing in silence, solitary threads of brightness weaving through a sea of almost black. Darkness provides the backdrop that lets you notice each fragile streak. You begin to see that nothing has structure. Dark lanes cut through glowing galaxies, clouds of dust that block starlight. Against that darkness, outlines appear, crescents of moons, silhouettes of planets, gaps in glowing nebulae. But those shadowy clouds are not places where nothing happens. They are nurseries. Inside them, hidden from direct light, gas cools and gathers. New stars are born there, out of sight, waiting for their moment to ignite. Darkness, in this sense, is not a grave. It is a womb. The feeling you have toward it starts to soften. The dark isn't just something to escape with lamps and screens. It's part of the universe's breathing, an inhale between bright exhalations. You remember the black hole and how, even there, light wasn't truly erased, only transformed and remembered at the edge. Maybe darkness is less an eraser and more a place of reshaping. If light is motion, perhaps darkness is rest. If light reveals, darkness restores. On Earth, every living thing behaves as if it understands this. Flowers close at night, forests fall quiet, bodies lean toward sleep. Your own biology is tuned to cycles of light and dark, to a rhythm older than your species, written by billions of sunrises and sunsets. You can think of it as another kind of speed, the speed of restoration, the rate at which a mind or a galaxy slows enough to remember itself. Far off, you imagine a galaxy cluster, so distant that its light has been stretched close to invisibility. Some of that light, pushed by the expansion of space, will never quite reach you. From where you sit, it looks as though darkness has swallowed those galaxies, as if they've slipped over some horizon and fallen out of existence. But really, it's your connection to them that has thinned. Their light still travels, you just won't meet it. The darkness you take as the end is often a limit of your perception rather than a true ending. What falls beyond your horizon continues, just without you. Perhaps many of the endings in your life are like that too. Not annihilation, but distance. Not nothing, but out of reach. You look out again into the wide, nearly black expanse and sense that it's not empty after all. It holds potential, star systems still forming, stories you will never hear, possibilities that will never enter your particular line of sight. Darkness is not a blank. It's the background against which new light can appear. Light is quick. It races, flares, fades. Darkness is patient. It waits, and when light is born again, a new star, a new idea, a new awareness, it makes room for the glow. You float there, wrapped in shadow, and instead of fear, you feel something like being held. The dark isn't hiding you so much as cradling you. Somewhere, inside some distant cloud, a new star is gathering itself together. Gravity is pulling dust and gas inward. Soon, fusion will start, and a fresh beam of light will join the cosmic web, streaming out into the same vastness that now feels so still. The cycle continues. Light moves, darkness receives. Light reveals, darkness prepares. Between them, the story of the universe unfolds, and you, resting here, are one small, quiet line in that story, carried along on the same rhythm. If light and dark are two halves of the same dance, you start to wonder what happens when the light comes from inside you, still there even when every star in the sky goes quiet. The darkness around you feels gentle now, like a soft blanket rather than a void. In that stillness, it's easier to notice what's happening within. You can sense your own warmth, the quiet rhythm of your heart, the calm presence of your thoughts. The universe still feels vast beyond measure, but your attention turns inward, and you begin to notice something simple and astonishing. The patterns you've been chasing out among galaxies are also written inside you. You've drifted across unimaginable distances in your mind, following beams of starlight, but you've carried light with you all along. You're not only a witness to the universe's radiance, you're one of its countless, subtle sources. Every atom in your skin, your bones, your blood hums with energy. Molecules vibrate, collide, rearrange. In doing so, they emit faint electromagnetic waves light, but in a slower, longer form than your eyes can see. Sensitive instruments can detect this as a soft glow of infrared radiation. If you could see yourself the way the universe does, you wouldn't appear dark at all. You'd be gently luminous, not blazing like a star, but warm like an ember. The warmth that leaves your body is a form of light, stretched into long, slow waves. It's the echo of the chemistry that keeps you alive, and underneath that, the echo of stellar furnaces that forged your atoms long ago. In a very real way, you are starlight that has cooled down enough to think. The elements in you, carbon, oxygen, iron, calcium, were built in the hearts of ancient suns. When those suns exhausted their fuel, they died in explosions that scattered their enriched interiors through space. Over eons, those fragments became clouds, then worlds, then oceans, then living cells. Now, when you move your hand, those old star atoms move with you. What once burned in distant constellations is now resting behind your eyes. You can feel a hint of that starlight whenever you notice your own warmth, when your heart pushes blood through your body, when your lungs trade air for life, when thoughts flicker across the dark field of your mind. Those thoughts are tiny electric currents, charges leaping from neuron to neuron. They create shifting patterns of energy. Your mind is luminous in its own quiet way. It's strange and tender to realize that what you call thinking is also a kind of shining, not enough to light a room, but enough to change your inner universe. Light outside creates visibility. Light inside creates meaning. Somewhere between the two, the cosmos gets to know itself. Deep in your cells, there are even ultra-weak flashes of visible light biophotons, given off as molecules react and rearrange. They're far too faint for your eyes to catch, but scientists have measured them in plants, animals, humans. You are always emitting a few photons, even in perfect darkness. Calm and healthy, the pattern is steady, like a soft pulse. Under stress, it shifts. Your body speaks a quiet, luminous language, telling the world something about how you are. You don't just reflect sunlight, you answer it. When the sun's photons touch your skin, they stir your molecules, help make vitamin D, influence hormones, lift mood. You, in turn, release your own photons back into space heat, tiny flashes, a continuous exchange, light to light. You are made from the same energy you receive, listening and echoing at once. Suddenly, the distance between you and the night sky feels smaller. The light you see in the stars is not entirely other. In some deep sense, it is a more spread out version of what you are. Starfire, cooled and rearranged until it can ask questions about itself. The thought brings a quiet peace. You've never really been separate from the universe's glow. The light that left the early cosmos has been changing forms for billions of years. Radiation, atoms, stars, life, and now, for a brief while, it's arranged as you. You rest in that feeling. You are part of light's long journey, carrying its torch for a moment before passing it on. And yet, another curiosity stirs. You've seen that light and time are deeply entwined, but also that they can disagree in gentle, surprising ways. You think again of the night sky. Some of its brightest points are ghosts, stars that died long ago, still sending out their last light. You see them as they were, not as they are. The present is full of delayed arrivals. Gravity plays with this even further. Around massive clusters of galaxies, space-time curves so much that light from a single distant object can reach you by more than one route. It bends around the mass, splitting into multiple paths. To your eyes, that one object may appear as several separate points in the sky, or as repeated arcs of brightness. One flash, seen at different times, because one path was longer than another. The universe, in a way, replays its own moments. You can see the same event twice, first along the shorter route, then years later along the longer one. Light, following gravity's curves, turns time into a braid instead of a straight line. The order of things depends on where you stand. On even smaller scales, in the quantum world, photons behave in ways that seem to blur past and future. In some experiments, the choice you make about how to measure a particle seems to affect how it behaved on its way to you, as if light's story is only complete when both ends of it are known. It's not that time runs backward in any ordinary sense, but that light threads moments together more intricately than your everyday intuition expects. All of this makes light feel even more like a historian and a weaver. Each photon carries a place and a time, a tiny piece of what happened and when. The wavelengths tell you about temperature and motion. The delay tells you about distance and age. When you look up, the sky you see is not one single moment. It's a tapestry stitched from many ages, layered together. Some photons left when Earth was molten, others when forests first grew, others while you were a child. You are watching many times at once, lying there in your thoughts. You sense that maybe there isn't a perfect contradiction between light and time after all. They are more like two ways of describing the same unfolding. One is motion, one is memory. Light doesn't experience time the way you do, but without it, your experience of time would have no shape, no visible trace. Your heart beats softly. You notice how you too live in both directions, moving forward through your own moments, while carrying within you the light of countless pasts. Stellar, biological, personal. You are a traveler and an archive at once. And as your mind drifts deeper into this calm, another question gathers quietly at the horizon of your awareness. It doesn't demand an answer. It only glows there, inviting you to feel its shape. If light can remember time so faithfully, could there be a place where they finally agree? A viewpoint where every past and every future are just one continuous now? You float in that silence between idea and dream. Your journey has carried you through bending beams and whispered echoes, through bright colors and soft darkness, through the outer limits of the observable universe and back into the faint glow of your own thoughts. One mystery remains, the first one you began with, now colored by everything you've seen. What would it truly be like to move at the speed of light, to see the universe from its perspective, where all distances and all times collapse into a single, endless moment? So you let that last question rest in your mind and allow yourself one more quiet journey. You imagine accelerating again, not with rockets or engines, but with thought. The familiar world begins to soften at the edges. Distances stretch, clocks seem to slow. You feel a sense of motion and stillness at the same time, as if everything else is rearranging itself around you. You know, deep down, that nothing with mass can actually reach the speed of light. This is a thought experiment, a gentle imagining, but you follow it anyway, to see what it might reveal. You picture yourself moving faster and faster, closer to light's pace. Time outside you runs quicker. Time for you begins to slow. The stars ahead gather into a small, bright tunnel. Colors shift. Blue light in front of you slides into invisible ultraviolet. Red light behind you stretches into waves too long for your eyes to see. The whole spectrum narrows, then blurs, then fades. As you approach the limit in your mind, color dissolves altogether. There are no reds or blues, no shadows or highlights. Vision, as you know it, loses its footing. Not because the universe has turned dark, but because everything has become too unified, too compressed into one single, seamless state for your senses to separate. You imagine touching the boundary of light's own experience, if it could be said to experience anything at all. From that imagined vantage, there is no before and after, no start of a journey and no arrival. The beam that leaves a distant star and the beam that touches an eye feel like the same moment. Distances collapse. The path between here and there becomes a single point. To a photon, time does not pass. The entire crossing, whether it's from a lamp to a wall or from one side of the universe to the other, is a single event. All the waiting belongs to observers who move slower than light. You try to picture what that would look like, though the word barely applies. Objects stop being separate things and start feeling like patterns in a vast, luminous web. Galaxies, stars, black holes, clouds of dust, none of them are far away from one another anymore. They exist together in one immense structure, like threads woven into a single tapestry. In this mental picture, you don't see the universe as a scattered collection of points, but as one connected design. Every photon, every pulse, every flash is part of a shared, timeless whole. The birth of stars and the cooling of their embers are equally present. The first light after the Big Bang and the glow touching your face now are stitched into the same eternal fabric. You rest in that idea for a while. Motion and stillness blend. The faster you go, the more time slows, until at the limit, there is only one endless now. From there, you can look back, if back even makes sense, at the slower realms, worlds filled with clocks and seasons, stories and change. They appear fragile compared with this imagined eternity, but also precious, because it's within those slower flows of time that meaning grows. The very things you treasure, sunrises, music, laughter, the feeling of a hand in yours, depend on sequence, on this came before that. Without time unfolding, there would be no journey, no learning, no becoming. You begin to see why being slower than light is a gift. Light holds completeness. Life holds process. Light is the whole melody at once. You are the act of listening to it, note by note. In your imagination, you slowly let go of that timeless vantage and drift back toward your natural pace. Distance returns. Seconds separate again like gentle beads on a string. Colors slip back into place, deep blues, quiet reds, the pale shimmer of starlight. The universe resumes its familiar pulse. You breathe, and time breathes with you. The light that once felt unreachable is now back in its old roles, traveling through space, bouncing from surfaces, warming your skin, carrying images into your eyes. It is still moving at its sacred speed, constant and patient. You are still moving far below that speed, but precisely where you need to be to feel the story it tells. A soft understanding settles in your chest. You will never see the universe exactly as light sees it collapsed into one timeless frame. But through your slower perception, you witness something light alone cannot, the unfolding. The way things change. The way a universe grows from fire to galaxies to oceans to minds. You witness its narrative, not just its state. You open your inner gaze one last time to the sky in your memory. Every photon that reaches you carries a piece of the past, the flare of a young star, the whisper of an old one, the glow of gas, the first breath of the cosmos stretched thin. Each heartbeat you feel now gives that light context and meaning. It becomes not just radiation, but experience. Somewhere beyond what you can see, new chapters are already forming, new stars condensing, new worlds cooling, new beings who will one day look up and wonder, just as you do now. You may never meet them. Their light may never reach you, but they belong to the same continuous story, the same great river of energy that once was pure light and now includes thought. You let your attention return fully to your own small place in that river. You are made of starlight and warmed by it. You are slower than photons, but quick enough to love, to ask questions, to feel awe. Each moment of awareness is a tiny collapse of distance, a meeting point between you and something that began its journey long ago. In that sense, you don't need to move at the speed of light to touch what it touches. You're already participating in its work. When you notice, when you remember, when you feel wonder, you're closing the loop that began when the first shimmer broke the silence. You are the universe, in this one quiet corner, learning to see itself. As you lie here, calm and near sleep, you can almost feel that truth as a warmth more than a thought. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are an expression of it. A brief, bright awareness in a universe of light, and for tonight, that is enough.